everybody, it's Ellen Weatherford.
And Christian Weatherford.
And this is Just the Zoo of Us, your favorite animal review podcast, where we rate your favorite animals out of 10 in the categories of effectiveness, ingenuity, and aesthetics.
We are not zoological experts, but we try our best to bring the most accurate information that we can.
Do you know how committed to the craft I am? In the trenches of my research this week, I found myself on particle physics.
Oh boy.
Tell me why. Tell me why I was ending up in probability analysis in particle physics.
Ooh, was it light related?
It wasn't light related.
Okay.
It was for a much sillier and goofier reason. Just so you all know how committed I am to bringing you that best and most accurate information. I learned physics for you people.
There you go.
Before we get into our main sort of content for this episode, we're going to do a kids questions episode soon. Going to have Isaac, my 11-year-old son, back on the mic, as he has before, for answering some questions from kiddos. So if any young listeners, any young scientists are out there who have any questions about animals or nature, it can even be, personal questions like, anything about how the podcast is made or, behind the scenes questions, things like that. Any curious kids, have your grown-ups help you send in questions. You can email them to me at ellen@justthezooofus.com. And just please include the word kid question in the subject line, and we'll be answering those on an upcoming episode with Isaac. That's all the lead up I have for this week. I think it's my turn to go first.
I think so.
This week, I will be reviewing the Mexican jumping bean moth.
Okay.
The scientific name is Cydia saltitans. Yeah. The species was submitted by Dallas, who said, I guess I'm kind of partial to animals that have Mexican in their common names. I see that and go, oh, same.
Oh.
So thank you, Dallas. It's a great request. Very surprised that in 6 years of doing the show, no one has ever asked us to do these before. And I cannot tell you the last time I even thought about these. The last time I even thought about the concept of Mexican jumping beans.
Yeah.
You ever seen a Mexican jumping bean?
I don't think so.
I have a memory of them. Someone must have given some of them to me when I was a kid or had them in a class or something. And basically it's these little... They look like a bean. Mm-hmm. It's a dried out little seed pod that when on a flat surface and typically when exposed to light or heat, they will move. They will wiggle and roll and do these tiny little jumps. And it looks like the seed is moving on its own. It looks like it's just sort of possessed by a spirit that is moving it from within. But what's actually happening is that the seed is being moved by the larva of a moth.
Okay.
That lives inside of this little seed pod. I didn't know that. I think I just thought, because I've heard of trees doing interesting ballistic things with their seeds, seed pods that explode or, take on some sort of trajectory. And I feel like that's usually a gas buildup thing. They can build up gases inside and then the gases can cause it to move around. The compression of gas inside can cause it to wiggle and stuff. So I thought it was something like that, maybe some sort of chemical reaction happening inside of the seed. But no, it's just a little guy. It's a little guy in there.
So wait, when people do have these things, are they expecting them to hatch into moths and wherever they're keeping them?
Most places that sell them will at least inform you that there's a live animal inside.
Okay.
And so you could just not know that, maybe if you weren't paying attention, or maybe if you buy it and then give it to someone else and don't warn them that there's a moth inside, then they might not expect that. But yeah, most places that sell them will at least include a little bit of information about what's actually happening in there. But I could definitely see someone accidentally filling their home with moths.
Or eating some beans with extra protein.
Yeah, one of the websites I was looking at that sells these beans, and I think a lot of them, a lot of websites that sell Mexican jumping beans will have this huge giant banner at the top of the website that says, "These are not food, non-consumable." It says, "Not food for humans or animals. Do not eat." The forbidden beans. Do not eat these beans. And I'm kind of well, I wasn't gonna until you said that.
That webpage banner can't stop me.
Because I can't read. It's like I didn't want to until they told me not to. And now I'm thinking about those beans.
Maybe this is where that phrase, butterflies in your stomach, come from.
Uh-oh. So I'm getting my information from a lot of different papers that I'll kind of cite as they come up, but also from a PBS Deep Look video titled, "Why Did the Mexican Jumping Bean Jump?" And that had a lot of really cool footage of what's going on like inside the seed, like what's happening on the inside. So very cool if you want to see like footage of this stuff. There's a PBS Deep Look video. So a Mexican jumping bean is, just to give you an idea if you've never seen one, it is small. It's only about like maybe a centimeter or so long. It's round, but it has a sort of wedge shape. So it has two flat sides that come to a point. Because the seed pod is made up of 3 seeds kind of wedged together. Oh. So the point where they meet in the middle is a sort of flat-sided point. And they break apart. So like each one forms a sort of wedge shape. So it's not round all the way around. It does have a flat side. And that's important for a reason I'll explain soon. So the moth larva inside is also only like less than a centimeter long. They're very, very small. The adult moth is also only about a centimeter long. Oh. So they stay very, very small even when they emerge. And then the adult moth is also like kind of a drab, sort of grayish, brownish color. They're kind of mottled. They look kind of like plant bark or something. They are endemic to northwestern Mexico, specifically in the states of Sonora, Sinaloa, and Chihuahua. They're really found in the sort of mountainous desert areas, like very arid desert regions. And they rely on a particular type of shrub. It's called Sebastiania pavoniana. They belong to the taxonomic family Tortricidae, which are the Tortrix moths. It's a very cool name.
It is.
Tortrix, that rules.
Yeah.
A D&D character name stealers. Here you go. There's a free one for you. Tortrix. Now, in this family, actually within the same genus as the Mexican jumping bean moth in the Cydia genus, is something called the codling moth, which is the culprit behind wormholes in apples. So if you've ever seen like the classic image of like a worm in an apple or like a wormhole in an apple, it's from that moth. The larva of that moth is causing those holes in worms. They're like a huge apple pest.
So not a real worm then? Not
technically a worm, no. It is a moth larva, but it's a grub, you know?
That's interesting because I feel like a lot of media depicts it as like a straight up earthworm. That's like,
it's not even an earthworm. It's a green worm, which I've never even seen. You know what I mean? Like it's always like a little green, perfectly smooth worm. I'm like, I've never seen a worm that looks like this. But it is not a worm. It is a moth larva, specifically of this species that I guess particularly relies on apples. They'll eat a lot of other things, but they strongly prefer apples and can be just like a huge apple pest. So to get into our ratings for this animal, this is anyone's first time ever listening to this podcast. The first category to rate animals on is effectiveness. This is physical attributes, traits built into the animal's body that let it do a good job of the thing it's trying to do. I am going to give this moth a 3 out of 10 for effectiveness.
Wow.
They aren't very well equipped to do much at all.
Is there some bean bias going on here?
Bean bias? What? What do you mean by that?
You famously don't enjoy many a bean.
I don't like beans. Yeah. I'm not a bean person. You know, I'm healing my relationship with beans, though.
Okay.
We talked a little bit about my weird food preferences on Just the Chew of Us, this or April's bonus episode for Max Fun members. But one of the foods I have been coming around on, I've been warming up to, is beans. I chose to have black beans as a taco topping recently, which is huge for me. Very big deal. But yeah, I'm still coming around on beans. But no, the moth inside, the larva, which it spends most of its life as a larva, they are soft, squishy little grubs. They are defenseless, right? We've talked about a lot of moths where the larvae have things like venomous spines or really cool camouflage, or, you know, maybe they're able to, like, I don't know, spit a weird substance, or like moth larvae have done some cool things. Like they can have some interesting traits, but this one doesn't. They're just kind of there. It's just a squishy little dude. So to protect themselves from both predators, but also the harsh sun of the desert, because remember they live in like deserts in Mexico, very hot, lots of sun, they seek shelter. So the adult moths will lay their eggs on the fruit of that shrub, which has these 3 sort of wedge-shaped segments. And then when the eggs inside hatch, the larva burrow into the seed. And so as the larva grows, it eats away the tissue on the inside of the seed, which hollows it out from the inside. So when the seed pods like break off of the shrub and fall to the ground and kind of dry out on the ground, then you're left with just the single little seed with a larva inside, and the larva continues to eat the tissue of the seed from the inside.
Okay.
So it's providing shelter and providing a steady source of food because there's a lot of sort of nutritionally dense material inside the seed. And the larva is also able to spin silk. So they use silk to close up the hole that they burrowed into, so they have it nice and closed up. And they also line the interior walls of the seed with the silk threads. So it's like when you look just underneath the shell of the seed, it's all like these fibers of silk on the inside. So even though the larva itself has no sort of built-in physical defenses, it's sort of outsourced to the seed.
Like a hermit crab.
A lot like a hermit crab. In fact, I saw this word used to describe these moth larvae, the same word that I saw used to describe hermit crabs, which is called extended architecture.
Oh.
It's like, it's not part of the animal's body, but something that it basically treats as part of its own body and becomes functionally part of the animal's body, even though it's not something that it makes itself or something that it naturally grows.
Interesting.
It's something that it has to like find in its environment that it incorporates into its body. The word extended architecture is the fancy science way to say that.
Okay.
Which I think, even though the animal itself isn't like very well equipped physically, it has kind of like made up for that by seeking shelter elsewhere. Once it becomes an adult moth, the adult moth's coloration does provide some decent camouflage, but that doesn't really matter that much because the adult moths only live for a few days.
Oh.
We've seen this in other moths before, right? Like a lot of times moths, once they do metamorphose into their winged form, many of them lose their mouth parts.
Right.
Like this one does. This one loses its mouth parts as an adult and it can no longer eat. They exist purely to mate and lay eggs. Like that is it. Purely reproductive. They don't even eat. So they've got the clock is ticking. Like you gotta go. Which I've heard is why moths are so attracted to lights. Because if they all converge on a light, then like on a light source, then they're more likely to find other moths. So,
interesting.
and their whole, at that point, their entire purpose in life is to find other moths and mate and lay eggs and stuff. So the adult form of this moth is on borrowed time. They're on thin ice. It's a race against the clock. I think they kind of, it's giving peaked in high school a little bit.
Out of the bean and into the fire.
Yeah. So since I feel like the moth is so, on its own, it is so utterly defenseless and largely useless, the ingenuity section is really where they're raking in the points.
Hope so.
For anyone who hasn't listened to this podcast before, ingenuity is behavioral adaptations, things the animal is sort of more actively doing to solve problems that it faces. In this case, self-inflicted problems. I'm giving the Mexican jumping bean moth an 8 out of 10 for ingenuity.
Very good.
Which is not a perfect 10, but it's a bug.
Yeah.
It's a little bug. Basically what they're doing in the inside of this little seed shell, it's not technically a bean. Technically a bean. It's not like technically a legume, whatever that means even. It's a seed pod. But all of the papers that I read about it exclusively used the word bean to describe the shell that they live in. But like always in the introduction section, they will include this like, well, not technically a bean. We're going to keep calling them beans. And so like I would see headings in these papers that would say like bean details, bean trajectories and the ballistic properties of beans. I'm very glad they stuck with the word bean because it made these papers way more fun to read.
Yeah.
But so the moth larva is essentially piloting a mech, right? Because it's one thing to just like live inside of a little den that's got some food in it and that's it and you stay put. They're actually moving the whole thing. For a hermit crab, the hermit crab is still like legs on the ground.
Right.
It's just kind of carrying stuff on its back. The larva is not even touching grass. Like places not a single step on the ground, is literally just rolling the entire seed, rolling around at the speed of sound, except not even. They're quite slow.
What I've been imagining is kind of like, you know, those like giant bowling games where you're in a big plastic ball and then you're inside that ball rolling
Yeah.
That's what I imagine. Although here they can't even see through it.
It's like a hamster ball. Yeah. Or like I remember there was like this old game, Fusion Frenzy, on the Xbox 100 million years ago. And there was a mini game on there where like everyone was in a ball and you had to try to knock each other off of like a platform or something. Yeah. But like you mentioned, they cannot see. They can't see anything outside of the shell. It is completely opaque. So they are able to execute a few different types of maneuvers of their mech. They can roll, jump, and very, very rarely they can flip, where they like roll while jumping. That's very rare, but they can do it. So they roll the bean just by walking around on the inside like a hamster ball, but a jump is performed in a really interesting way, because remember I said that they have lined the interior of the shell with these silk threads. So they use their hind legs to grab those silk threads. They like grip it, and then they use the front of their body to slam against the inside of the shell as hard as they can. And it just like propels the whole shell forward. So they're kind of like headbutting it to like knock it forward with enough force to like jump. And jumping is even exaggerating. That's like a generous way to describe what's going on here. It's like a little hop, just a little hop. So they are fully like piloting this stupid thing. And I got this description of their maneuvers from the paper Locomotion of Mexican Jumping Beans, and that was by Daniel M. West et al. In Bioinspiration and Biomimetics in May of 2012. And what was interesting about this paper, aside from the description of bean locomotion, is that it was looking into the possible applications for rolling robots. Because it was trying to look into like, how are the larvae rolling the seed around, and how could we apply these mechanics to robots that might need to like traverse surfaces by rolling.
What year was this?
2012.
Okay.
Which was pre-BB-8.
That's exactly where my mind went.
I also thought of BB-8. But like that like rolling motion is obviously very, very efficient, right? Because if it's something that you don't have to like reset, and like it's like a very efficient motion. So they were looking at the motion of these beans, and if it could be like used to mimic, or if you could use like biomimetics to make a rolling robot inspired by it. But also they noted that due to the seed not being perfectly spherical, remember it's a wedge shape, it has two flat surfaces. So that has both pros and cons. The pro is that if you are trying to roll up a hill, one of those flat sides will stop you from rolling back down.
Hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully. If all goes well. If you're not going too fast, I guess. If you're going slow enough, which these things are really slow. Yeah. So like it's probably not going to be going that fast. But if it rolls back, it's going to hit one of those flat sides and stop rolling, so they can actually go up a hill because of those flat sides, which is really helpful. It can help them get up an incline. Now, the con of that is that it's not a continuous rolling motion, right? They're basically hitting the brakes constantly, which does make them very, very slow. But, pros and cons. It can get you up a hill if you need to. So like you mentioned, they can't really see through the shell. Very, very little light from the outside makes it through the shell. But the larvae do seem to be able to detect some colors of light outside the shell, and that does seem to influence their navigation. So scientists exposed Mexican jumping beans to different colors of light and found that they were much more active when exposed to red light. So when they showed a red light on them, they were very active. They were moving around a lot more, as opposed to things like purple or green light. Purple was the least active. When they were in a purple light, they were fine. And this is probably because they are most motivated to move by trying to get out of the sun.
Okay, I was wondering, like, where are they going? What do they got to do? They're
looking for shade.
Okay.
Because that is the most important thing. If they're in the sun too long, they're going to cook on the inside. So they need to be looking for shade. So if they're that's why if you expose them to light, like that's what will get them to move. If they're just in the shade and they're cool and everything's fine, they have no reason to move. They're going to stay still. But under red light especially, they would really get a move on. They would hop a lot. That was from the paper Ambient Light Spectrum Affects Larval Mexican Jumping Bean Moth Behavior Despite Light Obstruction from Host Seed. That was by Faith Summers et al. In Behavioral Processes in September of 2024. These are ways that like they can, get more active or be more inspired to move more. But since they can't see out of the shell, that makes you wonder, how do they decide where to go? How do they decide which way to go? Well, they don't. Makes sense. Move randomly. It's completely random. Like there are like this study that I'm about to cite basically like plotted the like path that jumping beans took, and it was completely random. Like there was no pattern to it whatsoever. There would be some patterns in like activity level, but they literally would just pick a random direction.
There's an RNG application in here somewhere.
There is. Well, it's not so much RNGs, but search algorithm, because they're searching for something, right? They're searching for a target.
Yeah.
I'll get into this in just a second.
Sure.
So the direction of their movement is mostly random, and each individual step could be in any direction. And when particles behave this way, this is called diffusive motion. So imagine like perfume being sprayed in the air. The perfume particles are going to be kind of moving in random directions. So like you get this is like diffusive motion. It's random. So when you're thinking about what the application of this and like why this is important, you have to understand the difference between distance and displacement. Did you ever learn about the difference between distance and displacement?
I think so. If we're going where I think we are, so distance could be the total length traveled, like start to end. But then displacement, you're comparing where they started, where they ended,
right?
Not necessarily the full like loops or distance they took to get there.
Right. Yeah. So distance is like how much you have gone, how much your feet have traveled, and your displacement is how far you are from where you started.
Right.
So if you walked in a big circle, you could have a really high distance, but no displacement. So diffusive motion, where you're just kind of moving randomly, will give you a high distance, but not very much displacement. Now, a jumping bean could jump all day long and end up pretty close to where it started, which, when you're thinking about the fact that it is looking for something, that seems like an ineffective strategy. That seems like you would want to cover a lot of distance. So in a paper on the diffusive motion of Mexican jumping beans, researchers compared this strategy with more ballistic motion, which would involve traveling continuously in long straight lines. That would be if they wanted to maximize displacement. Sure. So if it was more important for you to get far away from where you started, you would have a more ballistic motion, traveling in a long straight line. So in this paper, they basically suggested that if the target is an area of shade, like it could be like, imagine a circle of shade that they're trying to get to, a bean that's traveling in a straight line could hop right past the shade and never hit it at all.
Right.
And just keep on going. A bean traveling randomly might take a long time, but it's going to eventually hit the shade. Like, just eventually it will get there. It will take a while, but it will get there.
Which makes sense, because these beans are falling off of a shrub, right? And this is in a desert, so they're probably not too, like, packed in with several shrubs.
Right.
So,
it's not densely, like, not dense vegetation.
Yeah, so their goal is probably to get to the shade of that shrub.
Or whatever shrub is nearby. Yeah. Like, they also could have been carried by the wind, blown around, something like that. It's a really small seed. It could have been just blown around.
So it's not just a drop down to the ground type thing.
Right. They kind of have to, like, keep scurrying. Because remember, they can be in the seed pod for months. So, they could get moved around, or, something could happen. So basically, the researchers describe it. This is a quote from the paper. Therefore, only a small fraction of ballistic objects, but all diffusive objects will find shade. So if you were traveling in long straight lines, you are very unlikely to eventually hit your target, because the chances are very high that you would just pass it. But if you were moving randomly, you're gonna find it. It just might take you a long time. So they go on to say, in practice, the first passage time for some diffusive objects will be greater than the lifetime of a bean. So it may take them longer than their lifespan. So they say these results suggest that diffusive motion in Mexican jumping beans does not optimize for finding shade quickly. Rather, Mexican jumping beans use a strategy that minimizes the chances of never finding shade when shade is sparse. So it's more important that they find it at all than that they find it quickly.
Okay.
Yeah. I've been playing a lot of Minecraft recently. And this reminds me a lot of mining in Minecraft because you're looking for like resources.
Sure.
And they could be anywhere. So like you might think naturally, oh, I want to like dig really, really far in a single direction in the hopes that I'll find like what I'm looking for. But just digging randomly is like going to yield, an even better chance that you'll find what you're looking for. So yeah, I found that really interesting. That was from a paper titled Mexican Jumping Beans Exhibit Diffusive Motion. That was by Devin McKee and A. Pasha Tabatabai. They were at Seattle University.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. We were just there, 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
Shout out to Mira Sethi, who had us come talk to the natural history class at Seattle University. That was a lot of fun. You guys were really cool. But this paper was published in January of 2023. So it was a couple years ago. I don't know if they're still at Seattle University. Now, there are some drawbacks to the shell. And like we mentioned, the larva can't see or perceive anything about the world outside of its shell, so it can't navigate around obstacles. So, like, if it runs up against something, there's nothing it can do about that. That sucks. And also, the shell actually slows the larva down substantially. Like, the larva's walking speed is like 3 times its rolling speed. It's going way slower in the shell, which is hilarious.
That's the classic trade-off of armor.
That's true, yeah. And it's not as cute. It's got better stats, but it's not as cute. I will never pick the armor with better stats if I have cuter armor available.
See, this is why people like games with transmog, where you can just take anything and make it look like anything else.
Make anything cute. Now, when the larva is ready to emerge, so when it's still a little grub, it chews a hole in the pod first before pupating because the adults don't have mouth parts. So when it's ready to emerge as this fully grown moth, it wouldn't be able to chew its way out on its own. So it has to think ahead and prepare for oh, I'm not going to be able to bust out of here.
You say it chews a hole?
It chews a hole, in the seed and then metamorphoses.
Okay, so then it has to be really good about how big that hole needs to be.
Yeah, so it'll kind of chew a hole and then not fully push it open. So it makes the sort of opening of a hatch and then it turns into a moth, and then the moth is able to push through. The moth doesn't have jaws or anything like that, so it wouldn't be able to do it. It reminds me a lot of how submarine hatches are bolted on. You know what I mean?
I think so.
You ever seen these? When a submarine is going down, they bolt the doors on from the outside, so you wouldn't be able to actually open the hatch from the inside. They have to take the bolts out.
I don't think it works that way.
I'm pretty sure,
because submarines can surface in the middle of the ocean and they can come out of the submarine.
I think some of them are bolted on. This was a thing for Ocean Gate.
Oh, well, I'm thinking military submarines.
Oh, yeah. Military submarines, I don't know. This is more deep sea, exploration submarines I was thinking of.
Okay, well, that one had much bigger problems.
Well, not just not just that one. I'm talking about normal ones that are made right, where the front's not supposed to fall.
Well, I don't know. You never hear about those, do you?
That's true. You never see headlines for a week about submarine is fine, nothing bad happened, submarine mission goes normal.
But you do see the footage.
That's true. It's pretty good. So yeah, there's some drawbacks, but some benefits. I think that the moth larva is a good pilot.
Oh, good.
Get in the robot larva.
Did you happen to come across how this larva has influenced the evolution of the plant?
No, I haven't.
I think that'd be interesting because it's almost kind of selecting seed pods that the larva likes.
But also in the process of using that seed pod, they also render it sterile.
Right.
Because they're eating it from the inside. So that seed will not germinate.
Right. So the ones that do stay behind to make more plants are ones that were not chosen by the larva.
If anything, it would be a parasitic relationship.
Yeah.
Because it's taking its nutrients and stuff from the host plant and rendering it, reproductively inviable. So it would be harming the seed, like harming the plant's reproductive process. But I don't think that like the plant has evolved any defenses against it. Maybe because it doesn't impede the sort of lifespan of the plant, like it's not impeding the survival of the plant itself. Although we hear about, brood parasitism, right? Where like parasites will attack a species in a way where they're only harming the offspring or the reproductive process. And then you do see defenses against that. So I don't know why the plant hasn't evolved any defenses against the moth. Maybe it's just not that big a deal.
Maybe.
Maybe they think they're cute.
Maybe there's more seeds than there are moths.
So finally, for aesthetics for this moth, I'm giving them a 4 out of 10. It's there. There's a lot of moths out there. This is one of them.
Yeah.
It's one of the moths ever. It exists.
But it's no Atlas moth
No, it's not one of the big, cool, impressive moths.
Okay.
I've been on record as saying that I think the Luna moth clears any butterfly. I think the Luna moth is the prettiest lepidopteran. Whoa. Big word alert. Sorry, guys. That's the like both. The moth and butterfly family. I think the Luna moth is the prettiest. The Luna moth is prettier than all of them, and I cannot think of a butterfly that I think is prettier than them. And that it's really putting this moth to shame because.
Now, do you include when the Luna moth extends its little pheromone wigglies?
Pheromone wigglies?
You know what I'm talking about?
What are you talking about?
You know how moths will they'll perch up on a wall and then release these like tentacle things for pheromones?
There's no way.
This can't be the first time you're hearing about this.
I've heard of this happening. I don't think Luna moths do it.
Oh, okay.
Okay, no, it's not a Luna moth. It's not a Luna moth, but I did pull up a Google search of oh my god.
It's very alien.
Look at this.
Yeah.
Is that what you were thinking of?
Yeah.
So this is Creatonatos gangus expanding its corymata or hair pencils. It's a moth. It's a little guy with like a sort of red thorax and long brown and tan wings. And out of its booty are these 4 tentacles with enormous bristly hairs coming out. And it sucks. So
I guess I thought that was more common among moths.
I don't think it is because I can only see, you know what? It used a word. Let me see if I can find the word. Corymata. Hair pencils. Pheromone signaling structures present in Lepidopteran males. Okay, I see. Okay, it looks like it's a thing in Lepidopterans, but that one species in particular has like very exaggerated ones. Because there's some pictures of it in other Lepidopterans, but it's much chiller. They're like much more demure and mindful about it. It's not that bad. So they probably have them. They're just not as exaggerated as in that one particular species. Ooh, that was gross. Blah, blah, blah.
So now you know that's a thing.
Thanks, Christian.
Uh-huh.
The only last thing I wanted to say is that these are not the only jumping seeds. There are other species of moths and other species of, not even just moths, there's other species of insects that do stuff like this. Gall wasps are found in California, and they're wasps that lay their eggs on galls, which are like growths on like plants, like leaves and stuff like that, especially oak leaves. So gall wasps will do this, where the oak galls will like, they'll roll around inside of one. There's some different types of seeds like in Africa and in different parts of the world where they have like an insect that will do this. Yeah. So this isn't the only one. This is just, I think, the one with the best marketing.
I was gonna say, I can see why people probably don't want to bring wasps into their house.
I'm all right. I'm good.
I mean, I wouldn't want moths in either, but if I had to choose between them.
Yeah. The moth isn't going to do anything. Once they're there, they're just, and also especially like if you have, because a lot of times these jumping beans are sold in like a bag, right? You get like a bag of them. So if you don't know that there's moths in them, you like wake up one morning, you're like, why are there 20 moths in my house? Why is this happening? Yeah, they're very fun. If you can get your hands on some, it could be a fun project. Just do keep in mind that there is going to be a moth in your house.
Mm-hmm.
And then also, you know, they're not native, so I don't know what you want to do with this moth. Like, unless you live specifically in like northwestern Mexico, they're probably not native to where you live, but also they only live for a few days once they're an adult anyway. Maybe you could just like keep it in a little terrarium in your house or something. I don't know. I don't know. If you want, it's a cool little thing. They sell them, they ship them, you know, like if you wanted to get some, since they're self-contained, you know, like they have everything they need inside the seed. And then once they emerge, they don't eat anything. So you don't really need to worry about like feeding it, right? Like nutrition and stuff. You just need to make sure that it's kept at the right temperature and provided with enough like moisture and humidity to keep the larva alive.
Do you think they will not mate if they can't find the plant?
If they can't find the plant?
Yeah.
I don't know. I thought you were going to say, do you think they'll not mate if they can't find another moth? And I was like, yeah, Christian, I do think that.
But no, if they can't find a plant to deposit their eggs.
I don't know. Maybe they're not very smart. So I don't know if they would have the sort of ecological understanding.
We'll just do it anyway and hope for the best.
Yeah, I hope this is something.
Anyway.
Rip. So that's the Mexican jumping bean moth. I had a lot of fun learning about this. I got into some tangents I didn't think I would. When I found myself on like statistical probability stack exchange, I was like, I'm in too deep. Pull me out.
In hindsight, when you said particles, I thought you meant like light particles, but
no, this is more like motion of like gas particles and stuff like that. Which when I was reading this paper about diffusive motion, they kept using this term diffusive motion, and then they were like comparing it to ballistic motion. And I realized at the end of the paper, I was like, I have no idea what these people are talking about. So I had to like wade through like slideshow presentations on like Brownian motion and like different types of particle behaviors and stuff. And eventually I was like, oh, okay. Now I know about beans, I guess.
Perfect.
So that's the Mexican jumping bean moth. Thanks, Dallas, for the request. That was really fun.
Thanks, Ellen.
Let's take a quick break to hear from our friends on the Max Fun Network, and then we'll get to Christian's animal.
Hey, we're the Eurovangelists, and it's the most wonderful time of the year because the Eurovision Song Contest is next week.
37 countries will face off in Basel, Switzerland to determine who has the best song in Europe.
On our show, we've argued about all the songs, and we are heading to Europe to bring you our reactions straight from Switzerland.
And on our next episode, we're going to predict who's going to survive the semifinals, compete in the grand final, and ultimately win Eurovision 2025.
Albania, baby!
It's Malta.
Latvia.
But we won't be alone. Glenn Weldon of NPR's Pop Culture Happy Hour will be with us, sharing his own predictions and telling us why we're wrong.
So make sure you're ready for Eurovision by listening to Eurovangelists on Maximum Fun, available everywhere you get podcasts.
You never know what you'll learn more about on the celebrity trivia show Go Fact Yourself.
For over 150 episodes, we've welcomed guests like DJ Jazzy Jeff, Audie Cornish, and Andy Richter to tell us why they love what they love, and then get quizzed on it.
And past quizzes have included some pretty unexpected topics like
reverse painting,
the perfect flip turn while swimming,
Prince's house party playlist from that one episode of New Girl,
and so much more.
Plus, our guests meet surprise experts in their topics.
Like the time we met an actual celebrity cow.
So, listen to Go Fact Yourself twice a month, every month on Maximum Fun.
Do it for the cow!
So, Christian, what animal do you have for us this week?
This week I'll be talking about the common slowworm.
Oh, a little wormy guy.
Scientific name Anguis fragilis.
Anguis. I think there's a root in there. I think it's Latin for eel because anguilla is, I think, the genus name of a lot of eels.
That would make sense. I didn't look specifically at the scientific name etymology.
Or maybe it's just the anguish that you feel or that they feel. Maybe they're a very anguished creature.
Well, maybe sometimes. Now, this species comes to us from John Paul Audette.
Thank you.
And I'll be getting my information from Animal Diversity Web, the UK's Natural History Museum website, and also the UK's Woodland Trust website.
Oh, this gives me an idea of where these things might be found.
Yes. So, first off, they are not a worm.
Darn. Every time.
They are a reptile, and they are a legless lizard.
So, how is that not a snake? How is that not just what a snake is?
Anatomically, it is different. A lot of legless lizards will actually still have vestigial limbs. This one doesn't. But if you were to look at, its skeleton, you could see the difference. So, a lot of those bones are still there, like around the hips and shoulders and such. Their vertebra is also not as flexible as snakes. So they don't have the same range of motion as snakes.
There's one trick you can use to tell whether you're looking at a legless lizard or a snake, and that's
Sure.
eyelids.
Yeah.
The lizards have eyelids. Snakes
Yes.
do not have eyelids.
Correct.
So if it can blink.
It also doesn't have a very pronounced neck like snakes would. And its tongue...
They need to mew more. You need to work on that jawline. Get your mew streak up.
So its neck is not as pronounced, and its tongue is notched, but it's not forked like a snake's is. Its tongue is wider, kind of bulkier.
I'm guessing that means that these two lineages, the snakes and the legless lizards, both lost their legs independently of each other.
Yeah, probably.
And also developed this like notched tongue. And I'm wondering what the pressures could have been that selected against having legs. You should have those.
That I can talk about a little later.
Oh, yes, please.
But first, just some basic info about it. So the common name, slowworm, actually comes from words in Old English, meaning earthworm serpent.
Earthworm serpent.
Yes.
Okay. That seems accurate.
Yeah, so it's not...
Although it's neither of those, you guys.
So it's the slow part is not actually a commentary on its speed.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, it was like an old word for what, worm?
For one of those words. I don't remember now. So yeah.
That's a fun linguistic coincidence.
Yeah.
That's convergent evolution just in language, I guess.
Size-wise, they can weigh 20 to 100 grams, or 0.7 to 3.5 ounces. And lengthwise, 120 to 200 millimeters, or 4.7 to 7.9 inches.
That's so small.
Yeah.
That's so little. I
Yeah.
can see why you would call it a worm then. That's in worm range. That's not
bigger
in snake range.
That's bigger than any worm I've seen.
That's true. We get some big ones out here.
Yeah.
I've seen earthworms in the ground that were pushing like 6 inches, I feel like.
Where they can be found. So while a lot of my sources come from UK-based organizations, they can be found in Western and Central Europe, including the Balkan Peninsula. There's isolated populations in Italy and Western Scandinavia. They could be as far north as the Arctic Circle.
So we've never seen these boys.
No, at least I don't think so.
No, they never been to Europe.
Oh well, definitely not in the wild. But
Yeah.
I'm not. I don't think I've
I
even
don't
seen
think a
this in
zoo would
or
have
anything.
one.
They could.
Maybe.
I feel like they could. They belong to the taxonomic family Anguidae, which also houses the glass lizards.
Ooh.
Yeah, which are also legless lizards.
See, get rid of them. That's dead weight, baby. I can move faster without them. The legs are just weighing me down.
So right off the bat, we'll start with effectiveness. I'm giving an 8 out of 10 for
That's pretty good.
effectiveness. So the reason they evolved to lose their legs is because it helps with things like burrowing and also moving through tall grasses.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
If you're like moving through a substrate, it would make sense to not have a lot of things that could get snagged on it or drag you down.
Mm-hmm. Which is good because these can be mostly found underground or under debris, especially during the winter. They hibernate underground, which is pretty common because it'll be more of a constant temperature there.
Mm-hmm.
These are ovoviviparous.
What does that mean, Christian?
It gives birth to live young, but they do come from eggs. It's just the eggs basically hatch inside the mother.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is almost like halfway between laying eggs and placental sort of birth, but it's like technically like there's an egg involved.
Yeah.
We just don't the egg doesn't make it to the outside.
And they are born still with like a membrane around them, kind of. Yeah. Which they break out of pretty much immediately.
Mm-hmm. Snakes are I know it's not a snake, but things that look like snakes, giving birth to live other snakes is so funny looking to me. It's funny to me.
And they're little.
It's a bowl of spaghetti.
Yeah. They have an impressive longevity. So the longest one claimed around 54 years in captivity.
What?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
But in captivity, it seems more common to be like in the 20 to 30 year range.
That's still, that's wild.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I've ever heard of even like a snake living that long. Like even like the big ones, you know, like.
There are lizards that are long lived, like Komodo dragons and the lizard cousin, the tuataras.
Oh yeah, that's true. They're said to be able to live 100, 200 years.
Yeah.
Even though I don't think that's been like confirmed. I don't think that's ever been like
It's very hard to substantiate these things sometimes.
Because you would have to have a specimen that you've like had in captivity and know for sure like when it was born, I guess.
Which animals right now, that were born right now, we would probably be pretty sure in 100 years if that animal lived for 100 years.
Right.
But right now, an animal claiming to be 100 years old would have been born in the 1920s.
Right. And who was keeping track of lizards at that time?
Yeah. So back to the tongue thing. They
Yes,
rely on scent the same way that snakes do.
Okay.
So they're collecting particles from the air using their tongue and then processing those through their mouth, like using special organs.
The Jacobson's organ.
Ah, very good.
That's what that's called.
So that's what that's for. They can use that to identify other slow worms versus predators and that kind of thing.
The fact that both these lizards and snakes have developed forked tongues or a split in the tongue suggests to me that that is offering a benefit. Do you know what that benefit is?
Probably surface area.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because if there's a slit in it, then that means like you're getting more surface exposed to the air.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense.
I think so, at least. That's kind of a guess on my part. Their diet, by the way. They eat slugs and earthworms, snails, and spiders.
Worm on worm crime.
They have backward curving teeth, which is really good for grabbing onto those
slimy stuff.
Yeah, slimy things.
Otherwise, it'll just zoop right back out.
Yeah. However, they are predated by snakes and birds of prey.
So you could have a snake eating one of these, eating a worm.
Yes.
It's noodles all the way down.
Yeah.
It's a whole food pyramid of just, it's all noodles.
Yeah, basically. And my final point here is something we love talking about when it comes up. And that is autotomy.
Let's go. I do love autotomy.
Yes.
What's autotomy, Christian?
So this is where an animal can willingly, I guess, that's maybe not the right word, purposely.
Intentionally.
Yeah, intentionally.
With intention.
Intentionally remove, I think, I'm not sure if this word is specific to tails, but it's usually a tail. I think it could technically apply to just a limb in general.
Well, I've seen this in snakes and lizards. It's usually specified as caudal autotomy, with caudal like caudal, meaning like specific to the tail.
Okay.
But I think there's some other species that can autotomize different parts of their body. And I'm trying to remember what it, I feel like we've talked about one before, but I'm struggling to remember what it is. Hey y'all, it's me editing this episode. I did a quick search back through our notes and I found it. In episode 204, I talked about the leaf sheep, a tiny little sea slug that looks like it's covered in leaves. It's really, really cute and also photosynthetic, so it's super cool. And in that episode, I mentioned sea slugs of the genus Elegia, which have been documented undergoing, you're not going to believe this, full body autotomy. So they're able to separate their head and grow a whole new body afterwards. We talked about it in way more detail in the full episode. It is a wild phenomenon. So if you were curious, head over to episode 204. That was on leaf sheep and basilisk lizards. All right, back to the episode.
But anyway, in this case, the slow worm can drop its tail.
Nice.
Yes.
Does it have that like perforation? Some animals will have like a perforation there where they're like, it's like a tearaway spot.
Oh,
like,
not that I could see visibly, at least. It can grow back, but if it does, it would grow back as a different color and structure and would be smaller than the original.
It's like when you see cars where you can tell they got like a whole entire like door replaced.
Yeah.
The door is like a noticeably different color than the rest of the car.
Can, like see where the Bondo is.
You know what I've been seeing? I've been seeing people with like where their cars like got a big dent or a big scratch in it or something. People have been putting stickers over it that looks like a giant Band-Aid.
Yeah.
It's so funny to me.
And something about that tail, they can only drop it once.
Oh.
So even if it does grow back, that they're done.
No infinite tail glitch.
Yeah.
You only get one.
So the thing about it is because this is also nutritionally expensive.
Right.
To regrow a limb.
So
like
just
that.
eat it. Duh.
Well, thing is, it normally does this to escape predators.
Oh, okay.
I'll talk a little more about that in this next section, which I'm getting into now.
Oh, good timing then.
And that is ingenuity, which I'm giving a 7 out of 10.
Okay.
They're very cryptic. I'll give them points for that.
What does cryptic mean?
Hard to find on purpose. Like we mentioned, during the winter, you're most definitely not going to find them unless unless you're like digging in the earth or something, because they're hibernating, getting away from the cold. And in the warmer months, they're still hiding like under debris and things.
I also don't like to be found even during my more active times.
Which is interesting that their basking habits have kind of shifted with this too. So lots of reptiles have to thermoregulate by basking in the sun and then moving into colder areas. So this one, instead of basking in direct sunlight, like we might think of with something like an alligator, these will bask under a surface that is being warmed by the sun. So think of like a hot rock or something.
Yeah.
Or like a sheet of corrugated metal.
Oh.
Yeah.
So they're like still basking, but
Indirectly.
indirectly. Interesting. I mean, as, fair folk who have to listen, sun protection is key, although I'm sure they're just doing it to hide. But
Probably.
I mean, I do the same thing, I like carrying around a little parasol, a little umbrella. I still want the sun, but I don't want the direct sun.
Yeah.
So I get it.
Yeah. They have no parental involvement after birth.
Great.
Good luck.
Goodbye. You're no longer my problem.
We touched on this, but they have a series of options when it comes to predator defense. So the first option is just stop moving. Freezing.
That's my favorite thing to do.
Now, Jean-Paul, who sent this to us, had something to say about this. Let me pull it up real quick. So the way Jean-Paul described it was that it tenses and locks all of its muscles so that it takes on the shape and chewiness of an aged oaken branch.
Huh.
I could not find this described anywhere.
Like specifically?
Yeah. This might be John Paul's take on,
on
how it looks.
Maybe it's an observation, yeah.
Which would be interesting.
Yeah.
So that could just be like a form of stop moving because
Right.
lots of predator would be drawn to movement in the first place. If it looks like a stick, all the better.
Yeah. Well, some animals will also like do this to feign death. Right.
Sure.
Like to appear to be dead, like you have died of a disease or something.
Yeah.
Like when you stiffen, you're like making it look like you died in that position, which would suggest that there's something wrong with you that a predator might not want to eat. Like there could be a parasite that killed you, or it could be like a disease that you have and make the predator think, well, if it, like most of the time a predator, unless it's a scavenger, will choose not to eat prey that's already dead.
Right.
They want something that they have killed themselves, because if it's already dead, you're like, well, what killed it? I don't want to eat that.
Yeah.
So maybe like the stiffening is meant to mimic death.
Yeah. And then its next option is just running. It's pretty fast when it wants to be moving.
Don't let the name fool you.
And also, it could fit into small places in between grasses and things.
I'd be so mad if someone said, oh, that's a slow worm, and I reached down to grab it and it just like zoomed away. I'd be like, I have been misled. This is false advertising.
Like, it was discovered by Jeffrey Slow.
Jeffrey Slow, yeah.
So it can run away. And then the next thing it'll try is a stink tactic.
Ooh.
Where it will poop on... Because apparently its poop has a very bad smell and can ward off some predators, like just by doing that.
Defensive pooping.
And then finally is where it can drop its tail.
Okay.
And then that helps both if it gets grabbed by the tail, but also once the tail drops, it stays there wiggling for a couple of minutes.
This is wild. If you've never, if you have never actually seen this happen and it happens in front of you, it is alarming because it looks like just this little squirming, wiggling, like it's terrifying when this happens.
Yeah. So the idea is that'll distract the predator while the rest of the lizard gets away.
Yeah. Or at least startle it. Like, what is that?
Or it might just stay there to eat that. It's like, oh, okay. I'll take it.
That's all I wanted. Yeah. I just wanted a snack. That's all. I didn't want a whole lizard.
Yeah. And then finally, when they're mating, they do something called love biting.
Oh.
It's... only on the surface is it kind of cute. So they'll do these mating things that can take hours and hours where the male might bite onto the head or neck of the female.
You showed me a picture of this yesterday, and it was really funny because you like held your phone to me. You said, "Look, it's us," and I looked, and it is one of these lizards with its jaws fully entirely wrapped around the head of another one, just like and the one with its head in the other one's mouth, it just looks so done. It just looks so over it.
Yeah. And then finally, aesthetics. I'm going a 7 out of 10. I changed my mind.
From what?
An 8.
That was a downgrade? Wow. Oof.
Maybe it was the talking about poop thing.
Yeah, maybe that brought you down.
So they have like a kind of a golden brownish color to them, and the females can have stripes along the back and sides. But, they're not like vibrantly colored or anything.
I do feel like if you see a legless lizard and you're already pretty used to seeing snakes, you can tell something's awry. You're like, something's amiss here.
Yeah.
It's like an uncanny valley for snakes. Where you're like, I don't know, something's...
And
this is weird.
They do have snakes in this area of the world too. So, and they're
the slow worm
smooth.
just saw the snakes and was like, me too. Act casual.
Yeah, don't mess with me.
Day 10, the snakes still haven't noticed.
And then finally, conservation status. They are of least concern with a stable population, and that is of an IUCN assessment in 2023.
That's good to hear. That's
Yeah.
rare, I feel like.
Their main threat is just habitat disruption. And they can be considered good garden visitors because they will eat things like slugs and snails that will often eat the things you're trying to plant in your garden.
So you want this little guy around.
Yeah.
I mean, as long as you're not like freaked out by, the presence of a snake adjacent creature. It's not even a real snake, you guys.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a little lizard.
I would let them be in my garden.
Yeah. It's funny. I don't think of like the UK as having many like lizards.
Yeah.
When I think of lizards being like out and about, I think of more like tropical areas and stuff. I don't really think of them being in the UK. I wonder if like they have a particularly good like cold tolerance.
It was interesting. I think these are not present in Ireland either. So it's like, if you look at a map of, the British Isles, like you'll see, the colored in like the London and UK region.
The Big Island.
Yeah. But then it just stops.
Great Britain. Sorry.
Great Britain. Thank you. Then it just stops.
Not here. No further. That's probably because of St. Patrick, I bet.
Oh, geez.
I don't think that's true.
Is this a snake? I don't know.
He like holds up a picture of one. He's like, it's looking a little noodly. Sir, I'm going to need to see some legs. Leg check.
Oh, gosh.
They've got like a checklist that's got like legs. If no, out.
I'm guessing it's a habitat difference.
I'm glad that they got him.
Mm-hmm.
That's a cute little guy.
So that's the slow worm.
Thanks, Christian.
Not slow, not a worm.
Gosh, we're 0 for 2 on this one. Thank you, Christian. That was very pleasant. What a nice time. And thank you, dear listener, for spending this time with us today. I hope that you had a good time. I hope you liked what you heard. I hope you learned something new. If you liked what you heard, I hope you leave behind some nice words in a review on your podcast app of choice. Like on Apple Podcasts, Queen Purple XD posted, I started listening after hearing about y'all on another podcast and have quickly fallen in love. I love y'all's energy and feel at home that you have the same special interests as me.
No.
Yeah, thank you. We certainly do. I think a lot of people come in from shared special interests. Also, I don't know how to pronounce this name. I'm sorry. A single R people is my best attempt at pronouncing this username on the Apple Podcast. Posts with the subject line W Pod. That's great for me.
I see.
Big dubs. Putting up numbers. Post, I love this podcast and Science of Birds. Science of Birds, by the way, is a podcast by Ivan Phillipson, who has been a guest on our podcast in the past. He's a delight to talk to. If you want to hear more about the Science of Birds, go check out his podcast. They also say, could you please do an episode on mergansers? It would be even better if Ivan was on the episode. Best pod, keep it up. I will ask Ivan about that. I'll reach out to see if he wants to come back. I would love to have him back on. He was really, really fun to talk to. So yeah, thank you all for saying nice things about our podcast on Apple. That's great. If you want to come hang out with us, we're on Facebook, Instagram, Discord, and Blue Sky. You can also send an email to me at ellen@justthezooofus.com if you have a cool animal you would like to hear us talk about on the show. If you want to learn more about the network and how you can be a part of supporting our show and get access to our members-only bonus content, head over to MaximumFun.org. And finally, we'd like to thank Louis Zong for our theme music.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. We'll talk to you later.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Maximum Fun,
a worker-owned network
of artist-owned shows.
Supported
directly
by you.